Hey folks, it's Adam. I am driving the Zodiac here in the Isle of Skye. Not sure how well you can hear me out here in the wind, but the coast of Scotland is a beautiful place. I thought I'd share it with you. That was me in a Zodiac there on the fly on the job. As you know, I work on expedition cruise ships, so we did a giant tour of remote Scotland, the islands, the remote coastline, and then we actually went to the Faroe Islands, and we saw an island in Ireland as well, which is in this video. I left the Faroes out of this video because that's a totally other thing. Scotland is amazing. The people, the culture, the history, the landscapes, the sea life, it's just like unreal. It's such a great place. I feel really privileged to share this with you and to have been there myself. If you're thinking of going, and if you're just curious and you just love Scotland, this is a great video for you to check out, because we did get to see some of Scotland's like cream of the crop treasures on this trip. We didn't see them all, but and I was working, so like I got whatever footage I could get. I wish I could get more, but here's what I got, and here's what I have to show you today in this video about remote Scotland. Let's go. Okay, so the first thing I got to show you is Skara Brae. Skara Brae, so we're in Orkney here, off the coast of Scotland. Skara Brae is like a history lover's paradise. This place is 5,000 years old. These are the houses that people lived in while they built those old stone circles. When people think of stone circles, they usually think of Stonehenge. Well, this is way older than Stonehenge. This is older than that, older than the pyramids of Egypt. It's 8 houses that were unearthed in 1850. In 1850, there was a big weather event that showed a little piece of one of these buildings, and that led to a full-on excavation of this place. And what we see inside is just amazing. These are stone houses with a grass sod roof on top. And inside you see the furniture, you see where these people slept. They're tiny little bedrooms at the side, you see that. They're tiny, but that's what they use for bedrooms. You see the mantle when you walk in the doorway of these places. Right across from the door is the mantle where they would show their nicest pottery, and there were antlers or bones from things they've killed. Almost like a modern day house. It's the best preserved site for this stuff in Europe. And it's called Scotland's Pompeii. The pictures don't do it justice, obviously, but Skara Brae is a world wonder as far as I'm concerned, and it is a UNESCO site too, but what an amazing site in Orkney to see. Okay, also in Orkney, Orkney is a hotspot for Neolithic history. The Ring of Brodgar. This place is an epic stone circle. I say epic because it's one of the UK's largest in diameter. It's 100 meters wide, and that's like 350-ish feet wide. Huge. Likely a ceremonial site for back then. A lot of this stuff is shrouded in the mystery of time because, you know, it's that old. But it's part of a larger landscape of stone circles in the region. When you look at the geometry of it, it is almost, I mean, within the margin of human error, it is a perfect circle. Done with pegs and ropes probably back in the day. So they knew their geometry, they knew what they were doing, they knew the night sky, they knew how things worked around them very well. So it's no accident that this was a perfect circle or very close to it. There used to be more stones here, but unfortunately during World War II, a lot of tanks used this thing as a playground to maneuver and do drills. There's a big ditch around the stone circle as well. Huge ditch. They had to move all this stuff by hand. People probably lived and died never seeing the completion of this thing back in the day. So this huge ditch around it, the tanks would go in and out of this thing, and sadly they disturbed the earth enough to make them fall over. So we're lucky to have what we have here now. This is the Ring of Brodgar, and it's just unbelievably stunning. What an amazing spiritual place in the world's history right here. So if you don't know who John Rae is, jumping way forward in history, John Rae is an epic, legendary Arctic explorer from right here, the Hall of Celestrain. I think I'm pronouncing that right. That's what his house is named now. He grew up here and eventually made his way to Canada. All of the influence of the sea really impacted him in his young life. He's the guy that figured out the last link of the Northwest Passage, and he's the guy who found what happened to the men in the Franklin expedition. They all resorted to cannibalism. He's the guy that found that out up there when he was there, working as a doctor, I believe. And on top of that, he mapped like 2,000 miles of Arctic coastline. So the guy is simply legendary, and we made a stop during the expedition to his house a couple of times, and what an amazing thing to see and to think about, and just the course of human history, this guy was from the middle of nowhere Orkney and had such a large impact on Arctic exploration of all things. So we're going now to the Isle of Lewis. The Isle of Lewis. So here we saw a couple of cool things. Very cool Iron Age fort. This place, the Iron Age, we're talking 500 AD. This place was probably around 100 AD that you're seeing here. This is a broch, so it's called Duncarloway Broch. I'm saying that totally wrong, but it's an old fortress that housed a chieftain's family, most likely. So the cool thing about these buildings is that, well, they're circular, but the stairwell is inside the wall. So it's a double wall all the way around, and you could actually, this thing is so well preserved, it's one of the best in Scotland. You can climb the stairwell to a certain point inside. And this was used as like a hidden passage to get away from invaders. It was used as structural integrity for the walls, and it just saves space for living inside. There's no stairs in your way when you're walking around. So really an ingenious design, and it likely housed a very powerful family in the region back in the Iron Age. To protect from invaders and all that stuff. There has been evidence unearthed of domestic life in there. So real cool site, just sitting there amongst the farms. Here's this old broch. Just an amazing thing to see on the Isle of Lewis. Also, one thing we saw too was the Grianan Black House Village. Again, I think I'm pronouncing that right. Really amazing place. Black houses were a very popular rural dwelling of crofting villages in Scotland in the late 1700s, right up until about the early 1900s. That was a dominant form of housing, called black houses because inside the house they had the peat burning. There was no trees to burn, so they burned peat. They cut it out of the bog and dried it and burned it. It smells like, you can smell it when you're in the village actually. It smells like old pipe tobacco, really harsh, earthy smell. It grows on you. And the soot was so much in these houses that it would just turn things black. And sometimes there was just an open hearth right in the center of the house instead of a fireplace, and that did the same thing, turned everything black eventually. So they called them black houses. The roofs were thatch, and they were all clumped close together to keep out of the elements. Good thing for survival back in the day. This place is an amazing living example of what it was like. You can actually interact, you can walk in all the houses. There's a one room in one of the houses with a big loom in there just to give you a window into the past. So the Grianan Black House Village was just an amazing place to see in the Isle of Lewis. I have no idea what day we're on. I'm on day maybe 17 of the journey around Scotland's remote coast. Behind me is St Kilda, one of the most beautiful historic sites I've ever seen. And I don't know what else to say about this place. I've never seen anything like it. St Kilda, probably my favorite place of all. St Kilda is just stunning. It's the most remote of all the British Isles. It's way out there. It's been inhabited for 2,000 years by people, this far out in the water. The first travelers there were probably intrepid seafarers from who knows where, and they showed up there, and because there's so much seabird life there, that's what they ate. The eggs, the birds themselves, and there's so much around, there's just bounty to them, and so they lived off of that. There's an old Bronze Age tomb there. I think I have footage of it, but it's in amongst all the cleats of St Kilda. So the cleats are all these stone buildings you're seeing. There's over 1,200 of them on the island, on the main island there, and these were originally used for the dwellings of the people that lived there. But gradually they moved into black houses like you just saw in Grianan, and the cleats were just used as storehouses after that. But they were always the main dwelling, whether it was a storehouse or whether it was to live in. So you can picture the people back in the day, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. What they would do is they would store things in these cleats. There wasn't any way to dig down on these islands because there's no soil. So they would put their dried food in the cleats, they would put seabird eggs in the cleats, they would put gear in there, they'd put tools in there. So as they're walking, making their way up and down the cliffs, they would drop things off, pick things up. At every one of these cleats, there is a stop or a reason for them. And of course, the sheep, which are one of the oldest breeds on earth, are still roaming freely all over the place around St Kilda. They're everywhere. They would actually make they would take shelter in these things as well. So just an amazing place, St Kilda. tons of history, you know, a real testament to the hardiness of living in the extremes. And, you know, just to be out there and ponder on it was a truly amazing experience. The views, the feel there is just incredible. But other than that, there's a couple campers, there's some researchers, there's not much there on the island now. Very cool place. The last inhabitants of St Kilda were there up until 1930. There was like 36 of them. And eventually, you know, and always there's around 70 or 80 people always at any given time on the island. But around 1936, there was about 36 people there. Around 1930, they just said, all right, we're leaving, we're done. Because, you know, crops were failing, weather was harsh, they just had it. The modern world had taken hold around them, so they figured, well, that's it. And since then, it's been a place for research and history and, you know, recreation if you're lucky enough to get out there. Speaking of all the seabird life there are sea stacks all around St Kilda with loads of seabirds, like, I mean, in the tens of thousands. Deafening, stinky if you get too close, you know, just incredible to see. The cool thing about the people of St Kilda, they would take their boats out to these sea stacks, they would jump onto the rocks and climb up barefoot. They did not have any shoes in any of the photos you see of these people. Climb up barefoot and collect the sea eggs, collect the seabirds, and, you know, have another meal. So they would use these stacks as food sources. Pretty amazing to see. So what an amazing place, St Kilda. Happy I got there. And speaking of remote, good morning, folks. Here in Fair Isle, way up the remote coast of Scotland. Like, if you look at it on the map, it's way out there. This is a bird paradise. I love this place. I was here once earlier at the beginning of the trip. It's our second time around. Another day, another beautiful place, folks. The remote island of Fair Isle. Wow, I look really tired. Oh my God. Fair Isle is a bird lover's paradise. There are so many birds on this, in the area and on the island itself, whether it's puffins or fulmars. There's this amazing colony up at one of the cliffs you can go right up to. So I sat there and lied down there for, you know, probably 2 hours combined of all my visits and got some footage. But it's also known for its knitwear. Royalty and fashion icons use the stranded knit they would do from this place, so you can actually go buy stuff that's knitted on site there. They produce their own power. They're self-sufficient here. Mostly just a place of research. I think there's 55 permanent residents there. What a remote, beautiful gem this place is. I was really struck by the puffins. That's all I really cared to see. Every time I went straight to that one spot up at the colony and did not move an inch from there. Sat there with my camera and just watched these amazing birds live their life. So Fair Isle is another beautiful spot you should get to if you are going to check out remote Scotland. Every once in a while we get a break. Did some driving earlier today and now I'm walking around in this little town of Islay. Really old place, beautiful place, as all these places are. Another day, another destination. It's kind of crazy. So yeah, usually when I'm off, I just kind of take some time to myself and wander the streets, get lost in a new place until the radio calls me back. Now, I did say there was one spot from Ireland I wanted to mention. Tory Island. What a cool spot. I did not know this place existed. Tory Island. So, off the coast of Donegal, 9 miles out, is this amazing gem of a place where Gaelic is the main language. They speak Gaelic at home, they speak Gaelic in the streets, they speak Gaelic at school. It's a language stronghold. There's about 120 residents on the island, and they still have their own king. I mean, can the place get any cooler? Yes, it can, because when I was there, they had this massive ceilidh, and I played some fiddle while the band played music. They were an amazing band, accordion, singer, everybody was dancing. What a time we had. Here's some footage from that, a ceilidh from Tory Island. When we were there, a lot of this crowd at the party you're seeing was, it was like a joint bachelorette and bachelor party, just kind of came together. It was awesome. And lastly, I'm gonna leave you with Stornoway. I was in town of Stornoway here, and I was hearing music that sounded like live music coming out of one of the windows, you know? And I followed the sound. I was with a colleague, we'd go in there and they're like, hey, come on in, this tiny little place. It was like a Gaelic cultural center. We'd go in there and they were all playing music and they were singing Gaelic songs. So I took some footage of that, and it just kind of is a nice last little tribute to the beautiful Scottish culture that abounds in Scotland. And with that, I will leave you, and I will see you at the next one. I'm heading to the Arctic next. I'll be up in the Arctic for 25 days, folks. So that's coming up. Looking forward to that, seeing Greenland and Canada. And I will see you next time. All right, cheers. Hope you enjoyed the video.